Welcome to the 152nd broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. I got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
All right, what we're going to be talking about, we've got a lot of people on the call. They're just listening in. We're going to be talking about the vehicle code, something that really messes around with a lot of revenue for certain folks. So we're going to go through this thing T-Row style, and we'll get started on a couple of docs here. What we're going to do is there was a lady, I can't remember her name. She was over in California, and she had gone through a bunch of things dealing with the driver's license and figured out that she didn't need one. Okay, and everybody would say, "What the hell are you talking about? You don't need a driver's license." Well, of course we all need one. You must be one of them sovereign, sheet-of-sheen domestic terrorists. Don't want to follow the rules, right? You know how those guys are. Let me know if these are changing, John.
That one looked good, Keith.
All right, so here's some of them. Here's some of the codes that we wrote down. We took a look at to see what would fit our fancy, and we saw this one 34692. This 34681. These are vehicle codes. For the purpose of this division, private carrier means not for hire motor carrier, as defined in Section 408, who transports passengers is required to obtain a carrier identification number, and including an organization that provides transportation services incidental to the operation of a youth camp, those kind of things. If you have say you have a transport from the hotel to the airport, that's that guy. He needs to have this. Then you've got other type of codes here. Provisions of this code is applicable to drivers of vehicles upon the highways apply to the drivers of all vehicles while engaged in the course of employment by the state. Right here. This is true. Absolutely true, and that's still true today. Any political subdivision thereof, any municipal corporation, or any district, including authorized emergency vehicles, subject to those exemptions granted such authorized emergency vehicles in this code. Okay, so the code applicable to the drivers of vehicles upon the highways apply to the drivers of all vehicles while engaged in the course of employment by the state. So that's what the code applies to. That's the overview of the code. And this is the California Vehicle Code. This is the same in every state, by the way. The provisions of this code, this is the overall view. Applicable to the drivers of vehicles upon the highways apply to the drivers of all vehicles who engaged in the course of employment by the state. So if you're not working for the state, this really doesn't apply to you. This code, this is the whole vehicle code of that state. Now, I'm not saying it, the state is saying it. It's right here. You're reading it right in front of you. Okay, California Code, Vehicle Code. I'm not making this up. You can look it up yourself. 21052. That's who needs to have a driver's license. Okay, keep this in mind. The Section 260 is a commercial vehicle, passenger vehicles, and any van pool vehicle. Definition of a commercial vehicle. Now, how many people are sitting in jail? Okay, how many are sitting in jail in this country that are sitting in jail as where the code does not apply, and the test for their case was engaged in the course of employment and by the state, where they could easily get out of that situation by suing the state for a paycheck, and they have to come back and say you are not employed by the state, so therefore the code never applied and you were just wrongfully imprisoned. So you see, if you get nailed for this, you can sue the state civilly for a paycheck. Say, look, I need a paycheck. Where's my paycheck at? You say, well, you're not employed by the state. Thank you. That means the code doesn't apply to me. So why in the hell am I here?
And I'd say about 75% of the people in jail for driver's licenses are in there illegally.
Illegal. In other words, there's no paycheck by the state that gave them money to prove their employment. So therefore the code does not apply to them. Now, I'm guessing here that you either have a bunch of guys sitting in robes that are completely retarded, or they all know this and they know exactly what they're doing. So what do you figure, John? Half and half are retarded and half are know what they're doing, or what?
Well, half of them are retarded and the rest of them trying to figure out what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Because that money is so nice to be able to put in your pocket.
Yep.
Those fines to put in your little private foundations and crap that you make up, huh? So, how many of them are on the take? That's the whole thing. Now, you can sit and talk to a guy that sits in those black robes and say, okay, look, are you retarded? Or you knew about this and you didn't tell people when they came into your court. And you didn't notify the vehicle, your DMV, to notify people that if they're not involved in any of this or they're not employed by the state, they don't need to be there. There was no court order, right? So you're assuming everybody that comes into your court has a paycheck from the state, is employed by the state, but you never seem to check, the treasury or anything, or the cashier's window to see if they're actually employed by the state at all.
Well,
Huh.
you start with the arresting officer, then it goes to the clerk of the court,
Mm-hmm.
then it goes to the prosecutor, and then to the judge, and
Right.
they're all of them are guilty of it.
So they all are saying that, oh, you are all employed by the state. Okay. Just wondering, I just need to know if we need to do a retard test or whatever. Here's the same thing, Internal Revenue Code, under an organization that operates an organized camp, or some crap like that. Or except as provided private carrier of passengers, defined in 34681. I believe this was 34681. Yeah, I just read that to you. They're required to register, shall provide, and thereafter continue to effect in each vehicle so long as the carrier may be engaged in conducting those operations adequate protection against liability imposed by law upon a carrier in accordance with following the payment for damages, bodily injury, and all this other kind of crap. So this is what apparently people are being tried on, private carrier of passengers. That's why they say, oh, you have a passenger in the car, or they were in a passenger car. Uh-huh. That's what you're doing. And you know exactly what this means, but you're turning around on them. Now, you're either retarded or this does not apply to everybody. And you know what you did. Okay, so we just need to know. So you have to question this in your own heart, because if you're stealing from people, thieves aren't allowed in heaven, I believe, unless they repent for that. So just remember that this goes beyond. Thieves don't go to heaven unless you repent before you die. The only thing is nobody knows when you're going to die. So take your chances. All right. There was a driver's license that was found in a wall, believe it or not. Somebody was doing some construction. It's an old driver's license. It's a 1949, I'm sorry, operator's license. How many times are you asked, do you have an operator's license? Okay.
Yeah, and the operator's license back then was non-commercial. That was for private vehicles.
Are you sure? Because
Yep.
it looks to me like it was coming from the state.
It was coming from the state, but the thing of it is, if you anything commercial, you had to have a chauffeur's license.
Okay. Well, that would
Do,
probably be on the street because I actually have something a little bit different here. Hold on a second.
okay.
All right. This is operator's license, 1949, Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. Okay, so this actually used to come out of the Department of Revenue. This certifies that the addressee named herein has been named as an operator of motor vehicles. Okay, which is a title. It's not a title of nobility, it's just a title. The licensee license shall expire January 31st, 1950. So they didn't go for very long, unless sooner revoked or suspended for cause by the secretary. Then they have the operator plate number, which was 7738361. That was the plate number there. I'm assuming this guy was 5'11", weighed 140 pounds. He was brown hair and um, black. Mike Martinsky. Okay. And if you change your address, see the other side. So we said, okay, we'll see the other side. If you change your name or address, you must notify the department within 48 hours of such change. Form may be obtained, of obviously a little bit this is messed up, obtained from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which turned into the Department of Motor Vehicles, notaries, notaries public, motor clubs, justices of the peace, and aldermen. All right, every accident resulting in any personal injury or in total property damages of $50 or more must be reported to the Department of Revenue. Harrisburg within the 24 hours. Failure to report accidents may result in the suspension of operator's license. Reports are not open to public inspection and are not admissible as evidence in court. Okay. So I went up and looked up operator of motor vehicle. Now, Michigan Civil Service Commission is job specification motor vehicle operator. Employees in this job operate to oversee the operation of vehicles such as automobiles, trucks, buses, ambulances, wreckers, tractors, or other motor vehicles in order to deliver or transport supplies, records, materials, mail, monetary deposits, or people to or provide grounds maintenance or perform manual labor or other tasks associated with the work. There are 3 classifications in this job. Position code or title, motor vehicle operator E. This is an experience level. The employee operates motor vehicles for the work unit, agency, or department within a small geographical area and uses judgment in making decisions where alternatives are determined by established methods, guidelines, and procedures. Motor vehicle operator A. This is an advanced level. The employee operates motor vehicles to deliver supplies to locations throughout the entire state, where the employee oversees the work for other motor vehicle operators and participates in the work. Now, this has nothing to do, folks, with you going to work every day or you going to the grocery store. Are you riding the kids over to the baseball field or soccer field? It has nothing to do with that. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Nada. Okay. Um, we'll get to that in a minute. There was a problem. There was a way to do this, and they changed it, and you got screwed. Okay. This is worse than you think. The employee operates a more complex, costly type heavy-duty motor vehicle. So this is basically an operator of a motor vehicle. So, like I said, that license was a commercial license for working for the state. Job duties listed are typical. Examples of work performed by positions in this job classification. Drives a motor vehicle such as a car, truck, or van, pick up deliver supplies, official records, mail, medicine, laundry, food, monetary deposits, equipment, and waste. And why do they do this? Okay, it's because there's extra taxes involved when you're using the roads for your personal work. That's all. It's not a big deal. I get that. I'm not even against that. So, and they don't, if you're going to be using the roads for your work and not just, to go from A to B, go to the grocery store, go get a movie, go get a fast food restaurant, wherever the hell you're doing, and wherever you're going, that's not using that to make money. And that's where your gas taxes take care of that, the maintenance of the roads. So you don't have to have a driver's license to pay gas tax because it's in the gas tax. It's in the price of the gasoline, which is overinflated in my own humble opinion. Okay. So what I'm saying here, we can go on and on and on and on, go on and on, but it basically says the same exact thing. People going to the grocery store, people going to see their friends, people traveling to go visit grandma on Thanksgiving or Christmas and stuff. That's not what this is about. So they're using this to control people. Now, who is using this to control people? That's the kicker. Who's doing this and who's behind all this? So back in the day, they used to have that was the Department of Revenue was the ones who drove the commercial vehicles, driver's licenses and all that, and needed that worked for the state. Okay. So that was one registry that's called a Bureau of Motor Vehicles, or the DMV that you see today. Now, what's supposed to be in there is all the employees of the state are supposed to register their vehicles at the DMV. That's who's supposed to sit in line and deal with that BS all day long in that bureaucracy. It's total crap and everybody knows it. It's just for the revenue. That's all it is. There was one guy I knew, it was in Tennessee. He argued with the guy for 20 minutes, and the guy finally said, fine, you're right, exactly right. All we got to do, or this is just for the revenue. That was it. And then another guy said, yeah, but you're going to get harassed by the police. Okay, now we know there's a mafia involved. We get it. We get there's mafia involved in that. So, in other words, if you don't comply, you're going to get harassed by the mafia. Okay, mafia is going to come in. They're going to want their cut. We get it. No problem if that's how you want to act. But there's a much bigger problem here, folks, that involves everyone, even those who have state driver's licenses. And this is more important, I think, than anything else that we're having to deal with today, or having to argue about on whether you need one of these or not. Okay, there's a third party that this is called adhesion contracts. And we put it in the newspaper the other day, and now we're going to read it to you. Okay, the National Driver Register Act of 1982 was all done under the emoluments and created another register that was not needed under the guise of alcohol-related offenses. Okay, so this is what used to happen. People that had regular vehicles, just going back and forth to work and go in the grocery store, they went to the Secretary of State and they had a private property register where you could go in and just register your vehicle there or report it as your vehicle, and it cost you a couple dollars and everything. You got a plate and you left. And that was it. You didn't get bothered. You didn't get harassed. Nobody was, oh, we're going to harass you because you don't have one of ours. Okay, you're not involved in our fraud, so you know how it is, right? So, or try to scare you into becoming what? A state employee that's not paid. That's what they're getting ready to do. A state employee that's not paid. So, those states that have state taxes really only apply to state employees. It doesn't apply to people. However, we got another problem. And the 1789 Company Corporation has been at it again by not telling and or notifying people that when they apply for a state driver's license, that is literally a political decision, thereby becoming a part of what? Oh, the Communist Party. In other words, it was a scam to get people to fund the Communist Party, wherein on the surface it appears that the people consented to being a part of the Communist Party, while domestically no such notice was given. See, in a communist system, everyone works for the state because the state is God. That's how it works. They don't want to tell you it's God. They're actually saying that they're atheists and they don't want any churches. But really, they're just idol worshippers. They put the state before God. That's all that happens. That's just how they are. They're sick people, but it's just how they are. Okay? The state is everything. Oh, we need socialized medicine and all this other kind of crap. Yeah, destroy your God. So what they do is they got you to go down there and they told you had to have a driver's license, registration, insurance, otherwise they're going to throw you in jail. Now, what does that sound like? It sounds like a communist government. That's exactly what it was. It's like sound like something that Russia would have done or China does. Okay, that if you don't get our card and work for the state, acknowledge the state, and use the state highways that's in their name. Because see, if the people pay the taxes to pay for the roads, why is the deed in the name of the state? It doesn't make any sense, does it? Unless you've got a felony conversion of a deed for property. Well, that sounds like something that a communist party would do. They would steal the public property and put it in the name of the state instead of this name of the people of the state. Does it say "we the people" in the preamble of constitutions? It should be in that name, but it's not. That's a felony conversion of a deed. So that being said, um, they tricked you into going down there and getting one. Now you work for the state for nothing. But at the same time, they didn't tell you that you were consenting to the Communist Party. We'll get in more in detail here. In other words, what happened is that the two 527 organizations, which are private companies, go look it up. The Republican and Democratic so-called national parties are private companies and therefore not national political parties. At the same time, the Communist Party comes in as a national party, never claiming to be a 527 organization. Okay, so keep in mind that this was done in 1982. The Declaration of Interdependence of 1976 was before 1982. It was 6 years later. Okay, so the Democrats were moved into socialism and communism in 1976 completely under the Declaration of Interdependence, 200 years after their so-called Declaration of Independence under Allen Weishaupt. Okay, led two separate declarations of independence. Now, this is what they did. They brought the Republican and Democratic Party, made them 527 organizations with the IRS, and then didn't register the Communist Party. So therefore, it was a little bit of a switch that the Communist Party now normally doesn't have to be registered anywhere to be a political party. Now is the so-called National Party. It was a switch in 1982. This was also when they created the state of New Columbia. Same time. Same year, actually. Now, through the aforementioned policy that was signed in 1982, created a completely brand new registry for motor vehicles that was not necessary and under the Communist Party. So what did they do? They took the private one and the public one, and then they combined it into one. Okay, the Communist Party notified other countries saying that the people here in America voted in the Communist Party. So communists always lie. They always want to make sure that everybody thinks that their way is the right way and everybody agrees with it. Well, nobody's really ever agreed with communism. It's a stupid idea and always has been. And it fails within 50 years anyways. Every single time it's tried or used. Not just once, every single time. And there have been more people murdered under a communist regime than any other kind of regime in the world, socialist and communist. So those people trying to bring socialism in, they're getting ready to murder millions of people. This happens all the time. Every time. Okay? So you got Bernie, he's getting ready to murder a bunch of people. That's just how they operate. You got the AOC and all them, the so-called squad. They're trying to bring in murder for everybody. They're going to murder a bunch of people if they get in, and everybody goes along with their BS. Okay? So, since they want everybody to believe that they're popular, they go around, and since everybody was just going in and getting driver's licenses, they thought it was a new law, but actually it wasn't. And they didn't know it was a actual political, what do they call it, a political membership card. So everybody goes in, stupidly does it, thinking, oh, I'm just going to follow the law because I'm a good citizen. And I don't want to go to jail or fight this in any way. I might not be liked. So they turn around and tell everybody in the world, oh, they just went communist. This was under the down low. They all voted in communism, so we're in. Now you see why it's all coming out in the open. Now the Communist Party notified other countries saying that the people in America, here in America, voted in the Communist Party, and no one knew the difference because the international evidence showed that people voted it in with the Declaration of Independence of 1976 and then through the 1982 policy resolution, which was what? The National Party, the National Driver Register Act of 1982. Well, you voted it in. That's what they said. You said it. We didn't. So that's a typical felony conversion of the record. And we all know that communists are not above violating the law. Now, the Communist Party further placed an addendum clauses in the vehicle titles that gave the privately owned property to the state under the Communist Party. That's why if you ever get into an accident and the driver is not registered or doesn't have a insurance, you can send the bill to the Attorney General, and they will offer you money because it belongs to the state under the Communist Party. The inhabitants have been donating to the Communist Party for a long time. And the funny part is the states were paid to do it under the cover of federal grants for highway improvements. So think about it, folks. Where do you think all these billions are disappearing to? They can't account for those. Holy crap. All these billions and trillions of dollars we can't account for. It's going to the Communist Party. Where do you think it's going? And guess what? On the record, you agreed. So if you find out and then you question them, they say, well, you signed here, sir. You agreed. Are you saying that you want to leave the Communist Party? Well, if you do that, we're going to have to throw you in the guillotine or hang you or throw you in the ocean with cement boots on. See how this works? All right. Now, further, check the addendum clause in on your property deed that reads to have and to hold. See, that was never there before. Under certain conditions. With title, there's no such clause or restrictions. So the addendum clause was added by the Communist Party to all the deeds, and then they made it a policy that no deeds would be recognized without the addendum clause. So the addendum clause was under the conditions of the Communist Party and the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto is the way it's working today. It coincides with the Satanic Manifesto. They join together, so that's why you have the trainees and all that going and messing with your kids right now. They're both their doctrine is very similar. So we have all the evidence of these claims, and the Communist Party owes a lot of money back to a lot of people. Welcome to the light, Communist Party members, and your future lawsuits that will be coming quickly. Power comes liability. Your time of perceived immunity is now over. John, do you have any idea how much these peckerheads owe me for what they did to me?
I got no way to figure it, Keith.
Imagine how much they owe you for what they did to you.
But it will be a bunch.
It will be a bunch, guys.
a big bunch.
We're coming after you because you owe me a lot. You have messed up my life there, Mr. Communist.
Time to pay your bills.
That's right. So what I suggest before it gets too bad is you just offer a check, make an offer. Yep. Because by the time I'm done, just my case alone, oh man, you're going to look like the biggest dog shit piece of shit you've ever seen in your entire life, because that's exactly what you are.
Yep.
So there you go, folks. Everybody joined the Communist Party and never knew it, and they did it through the DMV. Now you understand why a judge will, if you never even applied for a driver's license, a judge will suspend your license. That's communism, folks. That's what the Communist Party does. It's not even, doesn't even apply to you. The code does not apply unless you change your position as a state employee or a part of the state. And that's how communists are. This is called forced association. This is called forced religion because it's idol worship. Even though communists get rid of everything else, they're still religious, whether they like it or not. They just don't know it. They don't see it that way. They're twisted in their thinking.
Yep. They suspended and revoked my driver's license.
Uh-huh.
But for $37, I can rejoin the party.
That's right. You can rejoin that Communist Party.
By getting a new license. Yep. For $37.
They offered that to you?
Yeah.
After all that was said and done?
I turned it in back in '94. And then they come back and they suspended and revoked it. But they'll let
Oh,
me
you
buy,
upset the communists, John.
they'll let me buy it back for 37 bucks. I told them I didn't have $37 to give away.
Did you know that? I mean, yeah, nothing to donate to the Communist Party, right?
Yeah,
Now, does everybody understand why the fines, where all the fine money goes? That's where it goes. It goes to the Communist Party. That's why none of it's accounted for. That's why you can't pay by check. You can't pay by credit card. You sure as hell can pay by cash. Where do you think all that cash is going? It goes directly to a Communist Party. And you're going to say, well, what Communist Party is this? Go look up the Communist Party. There's Communist Party, USA here. Go look it up. It's that party. So they're running out of the state of New Columbia. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that Francis and all them, they're communists. Italy's communist. It's a complete communist country. Um, I don't know what city of London is. I think they're communist, but I'm not sure. I don't even think they even know. But anyways, there you go. That's the whole story. So if you're tired of getting messed with and harassed and saying, well, we're going to suspend your license and all this other stuff, it's a forced political decision. You can't do this. Okay. And this isn't over yet. So you can't, you have to expose to everybody that they're forcing a political decision on you. And how many people in this country believe in choice? Regardless of all of our differences, we all believe in choice. If you want to be a communist and a socialist, then you want to have that choice. You're going to fight for that choice to be that. And if you don't, then you're going to fight for that choice to not. However, what we're going to do is this. The government of the United States of America, which is a republic, by the way, it's not communism at all, and the ANU, in the very near future, we're going to offer a private property registry for people that want to just register their private property and move on with their life instead of listen to all this BS. Now, the communists can either comply or they're going to get sued for human rights violations and they're going to get a shitload of liens on them because we have no problem leaning communists. We have no respect for that way of life, especially if the way that you did it. What you should have done was this. Come out and tell everybody that you're the Communist Party, and if people want to join, they can join. If not, that's it. And if your party is not very popular, then you need to change your brand and your product, because apparently your brand and your product sucks. And that's why, folks, everybody had to, or they had to do this with everybody and bring in or sneak it in, is because they know their brand sucks. The communism is nothing more than this. Have you ever noticed that Soros is a commie? He's communist and socialist, which believe the state owns everything, but yet Soros is a billionaire. Now, how can Soros be a billionaire if the state owns everything and all his property? That means Soros is broke and the state that he serves is the billionaire, not him. Kind of weird, twisted way of thinking, right? Oh, you want communism and you want to be a communist and all that, and the state owns all the property and everything, but yet you're a billionaire and you own a bunch of property. So you know what communism is, folks? Is nothing more than a couple of guys that want their property rights, but not given to anybody else. So basically what they want is a republic for themselves, and then use that republic to take everybody else's property and steal from them. That's all it is. There's no difference there. And then they use their own army to steal your shit. It's that simple. And that's all they're trying to do. In other words, socialism is nothing more than to steal, rob from one guy and give to another. So they're going to steal property from this guy and give it to somebody else. And they're the heroes because they're what? A perpetual Robin Hood. It's a perpetual Robin Hood scenario. So now you know where they got the Robin Hood story and they got the idea. Steal from this guy, give it to this guy. Now you're a hero. so they can walk around and be the hero for everybody all day long. Communists are attention whores. They're attention whores, which is they have to have constant attention. High maintenance. High maintenance people, man. Always have to have attention. Always have to be the hero. Always have to save everybody. They have this thing, I'm going to save the world crap. Okay? Rather than just accept it the way it is or do the best they can to make it a little better for themselves and for others that are around them. But they always have this hero complex. We're going to come in and save the world, save everybody. When it's impossible. So we're living in a nightmare and a dream at the same time when you're dealing with people like that. And people that don't agree, well, we just got to kill them. It's an easier way to steal because if you kill a bunch of people, now they don't have any property. Now that becomes part of the state in which they tell everybody that has to be that they have to serve it, while they keep their own personal property. You know, like Saddam Hussein. Notice that he had property. He had his own, castles and crap like that. Had a bunch of them. Everybody else lived in squalor, but he had all the riches. Same difference. And he had the army and go out, he would send people out, and if they didn't want to pay their taxes, he'd kill them off or take their crap or whatever you're going to do. Resell it. No different. It's simple stuff. But they got people believing that real communism is the people own everything, That's not true. None of it's true.
And how much stuff today do when they confiscate it through the courts and what have you, it belong to the state thereafter?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Confiscation of property. And
All these game preserves and everything, water retentions, all that belongs to the state, to the communists.
yeah, to the Communist Party.
Yep.
Well, that's who they gave it to. They didn't tell anybody they were doing that, but so basically it's stolen property.
Yep.
Right now. It's specifically stolen property, but what are you going to do? You got to convince everybody that this is a Communist Party. You got to let them know that it's there, and then they got that. In other words, they only wake up and when it's too late, and then all of a sudden, they've got they're singing the Russian, the old Russian uh, national anthem. They didn't know it until it just sneaks up on them. It's very hard because a lot of people are just their heads in the sand because they're so intent on you need to get a driver's license. The only reason why you get a driver's, it's not about that. It's about what's behind it. In other words, let's look at it this way, and then we'll go ahead and get off here because I'd like to keep this about way under an hour. I don't know how many times that we've heard sheriffs say that they've pledged to uphold the state laws. They've done that.
And
But
one world order falls right in line with all communism.
Right. But how many times have we heard sheriffs say that we're going to they pledged to uphold the state law? We've heard that 1,000 times that they made their pledge. But yet the code of California and many other states does not say anything about a driver's license is required for everybody. But yet they enforce it as it does, as if it does. So therefore, they don't mind enforcing one side of it, and they ignore enforcing the exempt side of it. See, there's two sides of that. One side is required, the other side is exempt. So you pledge to uphold the law. And if you do that, that means you have to enforce the exempt side and the required side. But you're not doing that. And that's where you violated your pledge. And therefore, you're in dishonor. Complete dishonor. Which makes you a liar. It makes you a thief. It makes you a kidnapper. It makes you all kinds of things. But I know you don't care about that because communists don't care about violating the law. As long as the political atmosphere benefits them personally. So if I will have respect for somebody in uniform if they enforce the exemption and the requirement at the same time. If not, you know better than anybody else. You know better than all these lawyers and all these police officers and everything getting busted in Texas right now as we speak. It's constant. They're getting busted constantly. You know, different than any communist criminal that anybody has ever known in the world. So thanks for listening to the 152nd broadcast of the T Row Show. Hope everybody learned something today, and we will start that private registry, and we're going to try to automate it where people can just go ahead and put their vehicles in there. You put anything in there stolen, that's on you. We'll probably have some people in there checking to make sure that the title is, and all that, match it up and all that kind of stuff, so we can keep the thieves out of there. We don't want to be running some car theft ring and other theft rings. So there you go. All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.